And there we go, record. Welcome to Club Fed True Stories. I'm so happy today to do an interview with my friend Alex here. We used to call him the Mad Russian, but he's an American, guys. He was born in Russia, but he's all American, okay? And Alex, so I got a bunch of questions to ask you, Alex, but you can change the subject, jump in, whatever you want, man. I really appreciate. It's so good to see you. I did time with this guy. Oh man. All right, let me just start out. So, where did you go to prison at, Alex?
I went to prison in Florence, Colorado, the prison camp.
All right. How much time did you do?
I had a 30-month sentence, of which after RDAP and halfway house, I ended up doing just a little bit over 14 months.
All right, so you cut it in half. That's kind of the norm when you do RDAP, huh?
Yes, I mean there was 6 months of halfway house, which was almost as, it was similar. So I would go ahead and put that number at 20 because the halfway house wasn't really halfway anything.
Yeah, I went to a quarter-way house. Hey, how much time would you say the average person at a camp does?
I would say 5 years. It seemed like to be like the most common number, but maybe 3 to 6 years.
That's what I would say too. A lot of these other prison channels, not to knock them because I watch them, but they think we only do 3 months and 6 months, and we can only be so lucky,
No, I've never met anybody who've done that little time. The shortest sentence I've ever heard of while I was there was a guy who got 13 months for possession of a joint at a federal park. He was a 19-year-old kid. And
Wow.
he ended up doing 13 months, which was the shortest that I remember out of anybody.
So you've seen young guys there? Because I got a guy called me up. He's 24, and he's hoping he goes to a camp. First time offense. His points are 11 to 14 points. He's looking at 15 months. But when you're below 25, you got a custody level of 8, and you got to be below 11 to get into camp. So I think he can go to a camp.
Yes, there was some young people. There wasn't very many of them there, but the young ones that were there were, they were few and far between. There was a lot more senior citizens than there was guys in their early 20s.
Yeah, I'm surprised. People 80 years old, they don't care. The feds don't care, man. So I don't know if you want to talk about your crime or anything like that. We don't have to go there. We did what we did.
I'll briefly say it was a conspiracy case. There was a little conspiracy case. I was a minor player in a conspiracy and ended up getting caught up at the wrong place at the wrong time and got 30 months.
The feds love those conspiracies, don't they? Man, yes. If they can't think of anything, they'll just use the word conspiracy, and then they got you. Right. So let me ask you, how long were you on pretrial?
On pretrial, I was for 7 months.
Wow, that's fast. I was 4 years, 7 months.
Yep.
So some people might not know what pretrial is. Can you tell people real quick what pretrial means?
Yeah, sure. Pretrial is kind of like probation. You have a person you got to report to. You have to take drug tests. You got to send in your paycheck stubs. It's pretty much identical to probation. You just got to go in, report, call them up every month. I would say just another word for probation, except it's before you go to prison, whereas probation is post-incarceration.
Yeah, so it's like before. So you get indicted, and they have this big grand jury, but you're not invited, and then you get a call from somebody shows up at your door. Well, we had a trial and a grand jury, and we indicted you, and you weren't invited, but now you're on pretrial, right? It's like, thanks for telling me, guys, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you next thing. So a lot of people on pretrial, we're not locked up. Some people can get locked up on pretrial, right? And they're in a like a federal jail. So you were out on a bond, I guess, like me.
Yes, I was out on a bond. Everyone in my case was out on a bond. We had to have like someone sign for it, someone that had over $50,000 in assets, a couple of people that had to sign for you, like a surety bond, they called it. And I had to give them a $5,000 deposit, which was refunded to me once I self-surrendered at the prison camp. And but yeah, everybody was out on bond, and one person ended up, in my case, ended up having a bunch of dirty drug tests in that time, so he ended up getting his bond revoked, and he ended up being in custody for the remainder of the time. But everybody else got a chance to self-surrender.
Yeah, I got lucky. They let me sign, and I had no money, and I violated, and I came up dirty. But they let me do a drug program, and then they let me back out. So I got lucky. Some guys, one dirty test, man, and you're locked up. So you got the self surrender. So tell me about the day before you went to prison. 'Cause I know the story. You hired the Uber driver. You were in Colorado Springs. But tell the people about the day before you got the day before you go to prison, because that's got to be a life changing moment, right?
Right. Well, I was already prepared for it. I live in California. I ended up flying out to Colorado Springs a few days before my self surrender date. I got a fancy hotel room and was taking Ubers to a bunch of places, restaurants, steakhouses, hiking, just random cool things to do around there. And then from the dozen or so Uber drivers that I met in the few days, I met one guy who I thought was the coolest. So I asked him if he wants to give me a ride to prison the next day, pick me up from my hotel early in the morning. He agreed, and me and him drove down there. And I asked him that a few miles before the prison if we could stop at a coffee shop, and I was gonna drink coffee and smoke a few cigarettes. I told him I was gonna smoke 6 cigarettes before I go in.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that I was never going to smoke a cigarette again, so I thought I'd get it out of my system. So we went to a coffee shop. I smoked a bunch of cigarettes, and then we drove into the place. We pulled up to the gate. The lady asked us to park in a parking spot and wait till someone comes and picks me up. And then she followed up a question saying, "Do you have any guns or drugs in the car?" And the Uber driver goes, "Yes, I have a firearm in the back." She goes, "Okay,
Wow.
never mind. Never mind. You please get out of the car and wait on this bench," pointing at me, and told him to get out of there. So I ended up sitting on a bench, hanging out for 10, 15, 20 minutes until a nice lady in a pickup truck came pick me up.
That's the one that picked me up. Yeah, I can't remember her name. She was really nice though. Yeah.
And she gave me a ride to the place, and they just pretty much came in, did a little interview, you know, just like a basic interview. Where are you from? What was your crime? How long are you here for? They gave me some clothes to change into, and lo and behold, about 40 minutes later, I was on my way to my new bed.
Yeah, it's a quick check-in at that hotel, huh?
Yeah, it was a very quick check-in, and before I even got to my bed, as I'm walking with my mattress and everything, approaching my bed, I have some guy walk up to me, and the first thing he goes, "Hey, you're new?" I go, "Yeah, I'm new." He goes, "Well, if you need any cell phones or cigarettes, you let me know." And that was the first I met over there, offering to sell me contraband.
Yeah, they're awful friendly your first day. I mean, I tripped, man. That's the same thing that happened to me, man. Yeah. Yeah, the first guy I met was Jones. Remember him?
Yeah.
And he said, "Here, you want a cigarette?" And I go, I didn't know if I should take it because I didn't want to owe him. I'd be his bitch, and but it's not like that, is it? There are a couple people that was somebody's bitch, but it was my choice, man.
Yeah.
um. So yeah. So your first. So that's your first day when you get in there. So, what did you think when you walked in? You must have went to Teller Building or Summit Building.
Teller Building.
So what did you think? You walk in there, you got all your stuff. I guess you got to go see the counselor or somebody to get your assignment, or.
Yeah, I came in there. I was a little intimidated at first, and immediately guys asked where I was from. I told them what city I'm from, and they went and found someone who lives in the same city as me, and that person went and took me around and showed me where the all the facilities are, where the basketball gym is, where the field is, where the library is, and just showed me everything, explained to me how laundry works. So he just pretty much took an hour or so of his time to show me around. And then, I was still, it was a little bit information overload. So everything didn't process that first time, but it was a nice little gesture. And that's it. I went back to my housing unit. I met my cellmate, real nice guy from Colorado. Um, and him and I became friends. And everybody, as a matter of fact, I became friends with everybody there. Everybody was really polite. Everybody was real nice, more polite than regular life.
Yeah, I met you. I don't know if I met you your first day there, but I met you your first week there. I remember that. And what did you think? I mean, it's a little overwhelming when you first get there and somebody gives you a tour and you can't take it all in. But I looked at it like a high school campus, maybe or something. I don't know. It kind of. I mean, I got I call my channel Club Fed. It's not a country club, not by far, but it's still there used to be Club Fed in the 70s, and this isn't. We don't have a golf course, nothing like that. But I mean, what did you think? Is it like livable when you walked in here? Do you go, I can do this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The first day I was pretty excited. Once I realized how much freedom you have and that you have the opportunity, you never have to be in your cell all but a few hours a day. You could always be out and about. So I was, I realized there's yoga classes and workout groups and weights you can lift and sports you can play and classes you can take and learn another language if you want. And there was so much to do. I was pleasantly surprised with all the options there. You could shoot pool, you could play ping pong, you could play volleyball, indoor volleyball, outdoor volleyball, indoor basketball, outdoor basketball. There's softball,
bocce ball, volleyball,
horseshoes. I mean, the activities go on for days. And if you like arts and crafts, there's a whole arts and crafts department. And if you play music, there's a ton of musical instruments for you to rent out or to use. A pretty decent library. I mean, there was definitely plenty to read. And once I realized how easy it was going to be, and it was, I will say it was easy. I was very excited. I was like, oh, I know I can do these 14 months really quick. And I did. It went by quick.
Yeah. So tell me about your first time in the chow hall. Where did you sit? Because, we don't have the same politics like a penitentiary, right? So you probably heard the horror stories, white sits with white, black sits with, don't reach over somebody's tray. They're going to shank you. And tell me about your first day in chow hall.
Well, my cellmate ended up walking with me to chow hall. He was complaining that it was going to be a very terrible meal. I forgot what the meal was, but he
probably chicken fried rice.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, this is going to be terrible." And when I got there and ate it, it was really good. Not really. Okay, I take that back. It was not really good, but it was definitely not terrible. It was far from terrible and very plentiful. There's definitely a huge quantity that they put on your plate. You're not going hungry by no means, and the food was absolutely edible. And I'm used to, I don't know, I'd like to think of myself as someone who likes eating delicious foods, and I was not disgusted by the meal at all. And my cellmate, he kept talking, complaining how nasty it was going to be, and it wasn't that at all. I was actually, it was good. It was very good, and I have no complaints of the food there.
Yeah, you've traveled around the world. You told me about having a croissant in Paris and Jamaica and all. You've tried cuisine everywhere. So if the food, if you can handle the food there, some of those guys, I don't know if they had private chefs that worked at their house, or some of those white collar guys were a little bit, what, tell me about the type of inmates that you saw at the camp. Now, what's your average white collar? It's not all white collars, but at a camp, tell me about the types of inmates that you saw there.
Okay, so I would say 50% of them were drug dealers or drug smugglers, like a mule that brought drugs across the border. And then the other 50% were white collar guys, and white collar ranges from so many different categories. There was doctors who overprescribed meds, attorneys who were dirty attorneys, There was, real estate guys, bank guys, telemarketing fraudster. I didn't realize how big of a crime telemarketing fraud is until I got to federal prison. There's a ton of those guys. I didn't
Speak-
even realize that was a thing.
Speaking of telemarketing fraud, Jason, our buddy, he's gonna do an interview with me later today, and he's got a story to. I don't know if he wants to get into that, but yeah, he did that down in Costa Rica, and they brought him here. They'll find you anywhere in the world, right?
Right.
So tell me about what kind of jobs did you have? Because everybody has to have a job unless you get a medical excuse. So what was your jobs?
Okay, so I had two jobs. My first and longest job was I worked at the ADX, which is the Supermax prison across the street. I worked in the mailroom there. So I pretty much was a janitor in the mailroom. I would sweep up and mop the floor. I did it. I was scheduled to go there 4 days a week for a few hours, but I would say 50% of the time I would show up. They say, you know what, we don't need you today. So I'd say I probably worked an average of 2 days a week for between 1 to 2 hours a day.
How much did it pay you?
I want to say they paid me like $12 or $15 a month.
Okay.
It wasn't a very high paying job, but it was very easy. It was really easy. And the guy who had the job before I did, I caught him as he was leaving. Like my first or second week there was his last week there, and me and him talked, and he said, "Look, you got the best job in the whole place. This is like a very desirable job. You got so lucky that they gave you this position because I'm leaving. This is so easy," and it was. And the people, the guards that I worked for at the ADX were super pleasant, super polite for the most part.
Yeah, I felt the same way too because I worked at the ADX Supermax in the food service, but I didn't know that you worked in the mailroom. Did you ever see the Unabomber's mail, El Chapo, or any?
Well, I had a couple of interesting stories. So the mailroom also doubled as a room, as a department where people would go in or out. Not very many people came in or out, but occasionally somebody would have to get taken to the hospital. So if someone gets taken to the hospital, they go through my department, and they would then lock me up in like a little one-man cell for 20 minutes until they process that person. And then because I wasn't supposed to have any communication with them, so they would like some of these, Supermax inmates, they'd see me through the cell window and they would like talk to me. I didn't speak back because I was instructed not to. So they would occasionally speak, and most of them, and this is a whole nother story, but most of them look extremely over medicated. They look like zombies.
Oh.
I'd say 80% of the time they were senior citizens with long gray hair, long gray beards, moving very slow, and just look like they're all kinds of medication.
I didn't know about the medication. Yeah, they've been in there a long time, so they're growing old.
Yeah,
Wow.
so there was definitely, it was definitely kind of like a scene from a movie where like they're doing some kind of experiments on these guys. I can't say that for sure, but that's what it appeared to me. Only once in the whole time, and I've probably seen, I'd say 25 inmates. Only once did I see one guy be aggressive and, and he was talking trash to the cops and threatening them and saying, "Oh, you guys think you're tough, coming into my cell 4 at a time. Come to my cell by yourself, see what happens," and he was kind of being threatening and menacing, and he was probably in his mid-20s or late 20s.
Awesome.
And that was the only time I seen someone who didn't appear to be hopped up on a bunch of medicine that was like in zombie mode. And then, but other than that, no, I didn't see any of the inmates. I would occasionally be sweeping behind the lady who was checking the mail that was coming in, and then I would like over her shoulder, like catch a glimpse of some of the mail that she was inspecting. And my God, you should see some of these like photographs some of these inmates are getting. They were getting, a lot of like very attractive ladies were sending them like photographs of them in bikinis and very skimpily dressed photos. And
they get marriage proposals, huh?
Yeah, I never realized that was a thing. But yeah, girls are definitely appeared to be attracted to inmates for some reason, especially guys who are serving 300-year sentences.
Yeah, some women just love them terrorists. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't. So, I mean, if you keep an animal in a cage for 20, 40 years, he's gonna kind of, I think you describing the guys that you said that were, in that state, probably been in there 20, 30 years, but, some of them do get out.
Yes.
I noticed the guards were really nice to us in food service too. I don't know how they treated the inmates themselves, but I know they always treated us campers like people. I don't know. I think there's a big difference between a camper and an inmate in the ADX. That's for sure.
Right.
Uh, Tell me about some of the programs and classes you took at Florence. Did you take any? I mean, you did RDAP with me, and what was RDAP like? I thought we had a
So
lot of fun
RDAP,
in those mornings.
yeah, RDAP was a very positive experience. I got you. It definitely, created a bond between you and the other inmates in the program. And there's like 96 people, so you immediately, and there's about 400 or 500 people in the camp. So it kind of puts you in a situation where you're already friends with 100 out of the 400 or 500 people there. So and you got a chance to like get to know these guys better. You lived with them, so there was definitely like it helped create friendships, and the program itself was very educational, I'd say, and it helped pass the time every day. It was about 3 hours every day, and it really helped pass those 3 hours, and so it made your days go by faster, got your time off the thing. I even learned some stuff, believe it or not. I was skeptical that I would, but I did learn some stuff. Overall, I like the program. I did have some, I had, a couple of issues with some of the staff in the program initially. It was probably my fault. It was I would say majority of it was my fault, but nevertheless, uh, we were able to overcome that. And at the end of the day, they wrote positive things about me in my reports. And overall, it was good. I liked it.
Did you ever see any gangs go or any? Because I always say in my videos, you don't have to join a gang. We really didn't have any, but there was these little cliques. But other than the Pisas, but I mean, would you
Well,
say
there
the
were
average
groups.
guy can survive a prison camp?
Oh, absolutely. There were groups that bonded together, like the Mexican boys from Texas, for example, kind of hung out with other Mexican boys from Texas. And then, some of you know, the white guys, they were very, they didn't really hang out with each other. Some white guys hung out with only white guys. I'd say maybe 30% of them. And then the rest of them hung out with anyone they wanted. Definitely, you're not under pressure to join a gang or to pay for protection. There's no such thing, and it's not necessary. If safety is an issue for a concern for some of the new guys that are planning to go in, I think that should be the last of your concerns. If anything, you're absolutely safe.
Well, speaking along those lines, what kind of do you have a message? If somebody's watching this video and they're on pretrial and you know um and they know they're going to go to prison and they know they're going to go to a camp or a low because they're pretty much the same. Do you have a message for those guys? My always message is you're going to get through this. Your life's not over. You'll survive, and you're going to come out all right on the other end. But what would your message be to them?
Yeah, so I have a couple of message. For one, don't be afraid for your safety. You're absolutely safe. It would be your quality of life will definitely be better if you have money on your books, because even though everything's provided for you, all the basic necessities, there's so much luxurious items to buy. There's, believe it or not, plenty of luxurious items to buy. So having money on your books will absolutely make your life significantly easier. And then the biggest thing I want to point out is that when you get out, the world is not going to be the same place. I was only gone for 14 months and I came back, plus an additional 6 months halfway house. After 20 months, I came back and I realized that life is completely different. My city that I grew up in is completely different. My friends and family have all changed in this short period of time. So there's definitely, I would say, the biggest obstacle is going to be adjusting afterwards to the new world out there. It is absolutely going to change. I remember in the halfway house there was a guy who did like 8 years, and he went to a taco shop and he ordered a burrito, and the cashier goes, "That's $11." And he said, no, I just want one burrito. I said, yeah,
Yeah,
one burrito. It's
a
$11.
burrito, right?
He thought that, they were still $5 back when, he was a free man. So he was like, wow, I can't believe everything's so expensive now. And that's just one example. Overall, everybody around you is going to change. Your friends and family aren't just going to like accept you with open arms immediately. It's going to happen, but it's not going to happen the very first day like you might be expected. And and I would say that was the biggest obstacle. But as far as prison goes, it's good to have hobbies. If like I like playing sports, I personally was in a I was in a basketball league. I was in a flag football league. So I was in a yoga class. So it's good to have hobbies. If you like arts and crafts and drawing and painting, that's an option. But definitely, like, have some hobbies because you're going to have plenty of hours in your time. Reading was another hobby I picked up while I was there and loved reading. But as long as you can find a few hobbies, it's going to be easy time. Everybody's nice. Everybody's polite. It's very safe. It was easy.
It's really good to see you at the beach. So Alex always used to tell me that when he gets out of here, he's going right to the beach, man. He always talked about the beach. And now we're both free, and it's so good to see you at the beach, and we're both free, man. I'm telling you, man. It just, oh man. So because I went to prison thing, and the last thing I want is to make any friends. I'm going to prison. I don't care about friends, but you meet friends, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, it just happens. Guys that serve in the army, they make friends. It's just, you know what I mean. It just happens. A guy
Absolutely.
asked
I
me on
feel
the
like definitely some of the guys I made friends with there, I plan on being friends in the future.
so a guy called me up, and one of the questions he asked me, and I still don't have the right answer. He asked me, what's the worst thing about prison? I mean, and my answer was, it's still prison. But he meant, what's the worst thing that, I mean, he goes, I know it's prison and that's bad, but he goes, can you tell me something else? Like, what's the worst thing? And what's the worst thing you think about the prison camp?
The worst thing there was never really a worst thing. It's just being away from your friends and family, but you get used to that quickly. And other than not being around, not being free is the only thing that's worse. There was nothing really that terrible.
I told him maybe because we don't have a fence and you can walk away anytime you want, and it's like it's in your mind, like there's the road, there's the town, you could walk, but you can't, but you could, and you
Yeah, and that's
know.
really it. That's about the worst thing. It's really not bad. It's a summer camp. I mean, I can't think of a better explanation description than it's a summer camp. You're in summer camp.
So let me ask you, what did you do for money? Were you lucky enough to have people send you money, or or was it just what you made, or did you have a little side hustle?
Yeah, I had somebody put $300 a month on my books every single month, and that
That's a lot.
300 was
Yeah.
enough to buy all the luxuries that I wanted. So it was. I think the most you can spend is like 360 a month or something. I had 300. I
Oh, you're
probably
living good.
I probably spent about 220 of that 300 every single month, and but literally I didn't hold back, so I had everything. So that's more than enough. Certainly, I met plenty of guys who were getting $20 a month here and there, and they were surviving just fine because there's a ton of ways to make money there. But I had more than enough, so I didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I talk about ways. I mean, you could do guys' laundry. I had a little. I was picking up mail, and they'd give me $5 a month to pick up their mail. You can clean cells. There's lots of services you could do. Of course, you're stealing food out of the kitchen and all that stuff. But there's legal things you could do to make money. So everybody has a little hustle if they want. Um, Let me ask you about phone calls, emails, letters, and visitors. So did you ever get any visitors? Because you're from
I've
San
never
Diego.
gotten the visitors. No, I did. I wasn't there long enough, and then, but I'll come back to that in a second. So initially, I was making a bunch of phone calls my first few weeks there. Calling friends and family, and then I realized that every time I made a phone call, I was actually in a bad mood for the rest of the day. It was a,
Yeah.
you know. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to make any more phone calls. So it was a unique thing because most people I felt like would make 2, 3 phone calls a day. And I decided, you know what, I'm not going to use the phone anymore. And I would go about 20, 30, 40, even 50 days without making a phone call. Now, if it was somebody in my life's birthday, I would call and wish them a happy birthday. And that's it. I wouldn't use the phone any other time. I didn't write anybody letters unless they wrote me. If they wrote me a letter, it was a very nice gesture and I would immediately respond, but I wouldn't initiate the writing of the mail. And same goes for email. I didn't write anybody emails unless they wrote me an email and then I would respond and keep the conversation going. But I never initiated anything because I actually felt like those type of things were putting me in a bad mood. So I decided to keep my outside contact to a minimum, which I believe was the correct decision for me. It's not for everybody, but it worked well for me. And but it was very nice receiving letters, when they came with some photographs and stuff. It was nice. I appreciate the people who did that for me.
Okay. I think I'll just wrap it up. It's been about 30 minutes. We're only going to do 10. Let me ask you just one more question. Did you have because you were telling me the other day we were talking about actually missing the camp. Did you remember that we had that?
Yes.
I couldn't believe I actually said, yeah, I miss prison. What's wrong with me? But did you have some good memories there?
Absolutely. And I can't believe I'm saying this because you never think you'd say this, but it was actually oftentimes it was a positive experience. You got a chance to bond with different types of people. There's a lot of socializing going on. And it was often very fun. So absolutely, I do miss some of those days, especially now when we're locked down due to the corona epidemic.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I actually had more freedom being locked up than I am being locked down with corona.
Yeah, if this is lockdown, man, these things they have no idea.
Yeah.
I wanted to get our friend Salty on here, but he doesn't know how to do the Zoom yet. But maybe I could get both you and Salty on here. We could do this again. We'll do a three-way. Would that work?
We'll try to make that happen.
Okay, because I want these guys to meet Salty. Salty's a character, man. Salty always cheered me up, man. He's got a kind heart, and he always had, a sense of humor and just kind words. And Alex, you got me through so many days there. I mean, Alex, you really helped me. I mean, I'm so glad to know you today. And I just want to thank you for, being my friend in prison. There's times you don't know, but you got me through. I could just pull you aside and talk to you. And I remember leaning on that rail, looking out at the yard and just, and then we had our little talks, and there's this bond that goes on in prison. And I never saw it coming, man. So
Absolutely. I feel the same way.
All right. So I guess I'll end this and we'll do it again and talk to Salty. And man, God bless you, Alex. Thank you so much for doing this. Subscribe, guys. Hit the like button. I should have said that earlier, but I'm getting a lot of subscribers now. The channel's growing. I hope this helps people. You got one last word to say to people out there?
Nah, don't worry about it. If you are gonna go to a camp, just write it out. Time will fly. And definitely most of the worries that you have going in there are false. And you just gotta, and have some hobbies. Definitely, if you don't have hobbies now, create them while you're there and your time will fly.
All right. Alex, enjoy the beach. Thanks again, man. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks.